Welcome back to CryptosRUs. I am George. Welcome to another live session that I have every weekday at 11 a.m. Central Standard Time. Today, I want to talk about the new $900 billion stimulus package relief bill that was just approved over the weekend. And I want to share the details, well, a few details that relate to you, and also talk about how this will benefit Bitcoin. Yes, this will benefit Bitcoin in a couple ways, maybe in a way that you're not thinking about. So I'm going to discuss that, and the second part of today's stream is actually going to be covering NULS. Remember last week I did a segment on NULS, and this week I want to talk about another portion of NULS, which is the Nerve network and the Nerve DEX. So thanks for tuning in, guys. As always, smash up the like, smash it up. Subscribe to the channel if you are new and hit that notification bell. And of course, follow me on social media, Twitter and Facebook and all that good stuff underneath. All right, those of you guys that tuned in already, thank you. Let's get started. There's a lot to talk about in a very short amount of time. So let's do this. Bitcoin took a slight dip this morning. It's still 23,200. So those of you guys that are panicking, oh, yeah, look, Bitcoin is falling. Well, let's just remember that we're still above 23,000. So we haven't seen these levels so low since 2 days ago, 3 days ago. So Bitcoin is actually holding well. And the reason why it fell today is because, there's a new scare from the UK that spooked investors. At least this morning, the Dow and in the broader market, it was down bigger, like 400 points and so forth. But now it's kind of recovering and people are just eating it up. And that's because even though this was a little scary at first, because there's more restrictions and lockdowns and stuff like that that's being implemented by the UK, today was supposed to be a good day. And it still could turn out to be a good day because of this. The $900 billion relief bill, the stimulus package, the new stimulus package, was approved. Now, both sides already said yes to this, right? They still have to vote, but most likely it's going to get voted in because both sides already approved. And both sides came out feeling like winners. They both feel like they got a good deal. Obviously, 900 billion is smaller than what was originally talked about months ago when the numbers were crazy. Like the Democrats were saying that they wanted like 4 trillion and the Republicans wanted like 2 trillion. So this is somewhere that's much lower than what both sides originally wanted. But still, let's talk about the main thing that you want to know about. The main thing is how much money are you going to get, right? I mentioned this last week. I'm like, there's going to be another round of money that's going to be coming in, and then for some time there was talks about no money, but now there is money. Okay, so most of you guys, okay, I shouldn't say most because it depends on what you make, but last time around, a lot of Americans received $1,200 per person, right? And then children was a little bit less, but basically you're getting $2,400 for a couple, and then I believe children at the time was, I forgot what was the children amount. Maybe it was 600. It was half. But this time around, it's basically half of that. Okay, so basically you're going to get $600 instead of $1,200. And this is only for people that made less than $75,000 in 2019, right? And it starts scaling down as you make more. And if you made more than 99,000 in 2019, then unfortunately you get nothing. But they calculate not just individually, but per household also. So if you unfortunately made too much in 2019, according to them, you're not going to get anything. But for those of you guys that do make under $100,000, you're going to get some money, right? And a lot of people are looking forward to this. I know some people, this doesn't really help, right? $600 is basically what you make in a day. So getting another $600 is just, I don't know, it's a bonus, but it's not going to be that substantial. But for some people, this is pretty substantial. People do need to pay for bills and so forth. And according to Mnuchin, this will be rolled out immediately next week, basically. They are going to rush this out as fast as possible, right? So it can hit bank accounts maybe even as early as this Friday, but most likely it's going to start next week, right? Besides the $600, there's a few other things. Obviously, that this would feed unemployment is continue in terms of the relief, and then also look, there's a payment protection program on small business loans. There's more money dedicated to small business grants, and there's a few other things, right? So this is obviously the big thing. A lot of people have been looking forward to this, but the U.S. is getting some slack because when you compare this to the other stimulus packages from some of the other countries, this is very, very low in comparison, right? So number one, the first way that this can actually benefit Bitcoin is the fact that, is something wrong with my audio? I don't think anything's wrong with my audio, right? Well, I'm looking in the comments. I think the audio is fine, right? So the first way this is going to benefit is that for those of you guys that don't actually need the money, and this is a bonus, well, of course, if you're watching this, you're inquiring about Bitcoin, most likely you're going to use this to buy Bitcoin or some kind of crypto, right? Last time we had this stimulus package distributed, people got at $1,200, and I was hearing left and right in terms of people just saying, I put that all into Bitcoin. And that was actually around the time when Bitcoin started recovering up in a big way too. And the markets recovered up in a big way. So the last stimulus package actually did make a big difference in the economy, in the broader markets, and with Bitcoin. So this time around, not nearly as big, but still, this is a lot of money that is flowing in. And we know a lot of people will be using their $600 paycheck on investments like Bitcoin and maybe other things, right? So that's one way it's going to help Bitcoin. What's the other way? The other way is what you may not be thinking about. And this is what all the big guys, the smart money, the big money, the guys that have been living and breathing money for most of their lives, they are concerned about this. Because this $900 billion is coming from somewhere, right? And really, realistically, right now, it's coming as a form of IOU because it is just being printed. And there's nothing that backs this, right? So this is just going to be minted by the U.S. Treasury and distributed out. That's how it works. So a lot of these big guys, they're very, very, very afraid, right? So that is why guys like Ray Dalio says cash is trash. Because if you have cash, it's just being diluted, right? So think about it. If you have $100 and there's only $1,000 in existence, right? So you have 10% of the cash out there. But what if tomorrow that 1,000 becomes 1,100, then the day afterwards, 1,200, and then soon there's $2,000 out there. Well, now your $100 is only 5%, right? So your $100, even though it's still $100, it has devalued itself. Your purchasing power has decreased by 50%. And that is fundamentally what's happening. When you have all these IOUs, all these money that's being printed, it devalues everything that's out there. That is why all these guys are now looking at Bitcoin, right? So this also helps Bitcoin in a big way because more fund managers and investment companies and hedge funds and family offices and pension funds, and there's a lot more that is now looking to basically hedge against the devaluation of the dollar and hedge against inflation that they know is coming because this is unsustainable. You just keep going, right? That is why recently you have heard of so many institutions and publicly traded companies that are now putting more money into Bitcoin. In fact, they're actually selling gold also to put into Bitcoin because they see Bitcoin as a much better store of value, a digital gold, a one that actually has all the great properties of gold, but none of the drawbacks. So to piggyback off of this, MicroStrategy, Michael Saylor, we've heard a lot about him. So he tweeted out this morning that he did complete He did complete that final purchase. He raised $650 million, and he purchased an additional 29,645 Bitcoins. That's a lot. Average price this time paid, 21,925 per Bitcoin. Remember last time when he purchased Bitcoin at 19.5 and everyone was saying, oh, 19.5 is too high to be paying for Bitcoin. This time he paid even higher, let's just say $22,000. But $22,000 is still lower than where we are now, 23,200. So he's still in the green. So now when you take his entire average, he paid less than $16,000. So he's doing it right. He's definitely doing it right. And if you look at Bitcoin Treasury, basically, you look at some of the publicly known companies that have declared they have bought Bitcoin. Look at MicroStrategy now. They own 70,000. 70,000. Actually, I realize I'm not showing my screen, so I should be doing that. I apologize. So look at this. MicroStrategy now has 70,470 Bitcoins. That is a lot. His total basis price, how much he has spent, is $1.1 billion. And now, today's value, it's worth $1.6 billion. $1.6 billion. So that means he already netted a cool $500 million. $500 million within just, 3 months, 4 months? That's pretty incredible. That is really incredible. And he now owns 0.2%, close to 0.2% of all Bitcoins in existence. 0.2%. Think about it. Think about if you could say that you own 0.1% or 0.2% of all Bitcoins in existence. That's pretty amazing. That's pretty amazing, right? And of course, you look at the rest of the list, there's a lot more. And this list is only going to continue. Let's not forget Grayscale last week declared they had 572,000 Bitcoins. They added $2 billion, over $2 billion worth of Bitcoin within a single week. With just 2 days. Like one day was 600 million, another day was 1.4 billion. So that's 200 billion within just a few days. But now they control $13.2 billion worth of Bitcoin, and that's getting close to 3%. And at this rate, man, they could be seeing like 10% in no time, seeing how much institutions and wealthy investors are buying Bitcoin. So it's pretty amazing. These guys, they're all buying, right? Because of what Ray Dalio said, because cash is trash, because they're afraid of devaluation and inflation. And that is why they're all turning to Bitcoin, right? Very, very different in 2020 versus 2017, right? All right. So that's the first part of the stream. 2 reasons why Bitcoin will benefit from this new $900 billion relief package. You know, we may not see it right away, but last time we saw big benefits. This time, maybe not as big, but I do think we're going to see benefits. And it benefits Bitcoin both ways, right? From people directly buying and from institutional investors also buying because of fears of inflation. So you got 2 sides to the coin and both pretty positive. All right, so the second part of this stream is I want to talk about NULS. So I cover NULS. It's a 3-part series. So last week I covered NULS, the basis of NULS, and that includes Chain Factory, Chainbox, right? And basically what NULS is all about. So now I'm going to talk about, today I want to talk about Nerve Network, which is very, very, very tied up with NULS, although they are a separate blockchain and a separate project, but it was created actually with Chainbox, and it was created exclusively basically for NULS. And I'm talking about the Nerve Network. And the Nerve Network is a brand new blockchain that basically, you think about it, it serves 2 purposes. One is it's a very, very fast blockchain, right? So it's a second layer solution. It's a scaling solution. So you guys have heard of Lightning Network for Bitcoin. Nerve is basically that for NULS, okay? They have extremely quick transactions. In fact, thousands of transactions per second, right? But also the second purpose for the Nerve network is cross-chain interoperability, the ability for different blockchains to talk to each other. And this picture kind of shows you, it gives you a good idea of the chains that is already talking to each other, right? So you have NULS, and then you have Bitcoin, and then you have Ethereum, and you have, this is actually, it looks like Bitcoin Cash, but that actually should be Binance. Because Binance chain and BNB is also a big part of this, right? So you look at the infrastructure here, or you look at what they're saying. Basically, you have a fast transaction blockchain, and it could talk with different blockchains. And this right now, you know what most people are using it for DeFi, right? As DeFi is like so hot right now, this could definitely be used for DeFi and other purposes. So let me show you what I'm talking about. So this announcement basically talks about how Ethereum, which is big, of course, you want to have communication with Ethereum, right? With all the DeFi stuff that's happening. Of course, you could talk with NULS. Of course, you could talk with Binance smart contract or Binance chain. So you have BNB and BEP20, any kind of tokens that reside on Binance chain, and also BNB tokens can also be cross-chain between Ethereum and NULS, right? So it's pretty big milestone. So this is already happening, right? So some of the other protocol coins out there, if you think about it, you know, they're still working on this. You know, interoperability between chains is still one of those things that's kind of like the holy grail. A lot of projects talk about it, but not a lot of projects can actually do it. They keep talking about how it's being built on and so forth, but the Nerve network is already here and it exists for NULS. But the good thing about Nerve network also is they can't operate as their own thing, right? So they can help communication between ETH and Binance chain, for example, you know, even outside of NULS. But of course, they are very, very tied with NULS. Now, what are some of the benefits, right, between interoperability? I mentioned that. Well, you could do a few things. You get into DeFi now. So you can actually stake. So one of the big things that you can do right now is stake on the Nerve network. And a lot of people love to stake because they're holding their altcoins already. Why not stake for some interest? And if you look at the current staking ROI right now, it's pretty substantial within the Nerve. I did not know this until I looked at it, but this is pretty big. So if you stake just the native token for Nerve, NVT, you're getting about 12%. If you're staking NULS, about 12%. If you stake ETH, you're getting 8.32%. And you stake some of the stable coins out there, like Tether, Coinbase's USDC, DAI, Paxos, right? 8.32%. BNB, if you stake, 8.32%. And then you got Huobi token, OKX token, which is also at 8.32%. So you could see the staking rewards right now on Nerve is actually pretty substantial. And if you stake for longer periods, let's say 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, 24 months, right? All the way up to 120 months, it's even more substantial. So that's one of the big benefits with Nerve, because you can start getting into DeFi, right? And not only that, you can also trade, because Nerve also operates their own DEX, right? So obviously, you guys heard of Uniswap and SushiSwap and all these DEXs that are getting very popular, but they're all based on Ethereum. You don't really hear about a very popular DEX that is built on another chain, although we know it's coming. And there are some that operates, but none of them that are really big. But Nerve does have their own DEX. There's not a lot of tokens, not a lot of trading pairs, honestly. But it's a good start, and it is already operational, right? So as you can see, this is already up. Not a lot of people know about it, but Nerve already has these things, and this helps helped NULS in a big way. So that is why NULS has always stated they wanted to be modular. They wanted it to be open, right? Use basically any kind of consensus mechanism, any kind of programming language, and make it very easy for blockchains to talk. And this is all becoming a reality. Not only becoming a reality, it is a reality. It's just that no one's paying attention to it. So that's what I want to talk about. So with NULS and Nerve, and I think it's pretty darn good. And next week, I'm going to wrap up and talk about NULS some more in terms of some of the projects, some of the projects and partnerships they have built. So there's a lot more coming. So that'll be next Monday for those of you guys that are NULS fans. All right. So now I'll turn it back to you guys. Let's talk Bitcoin, crypto. Let's have some Q&A. By the way, I don't know if you guys saw my video from yesterday, but this one is pretty big. I had two videos yesterday. One, filled my bags with this altcoin, and it surprised some of you guys, but I honestly believe what I said there. So go let my personal feelings aside when it comes to money. Let's put that aside. So if you haven't watched that, make sure you do so. Also, this one is what I'm waiting for. This is huge. I'm waiting for Tesla to announce that they are putting some of their reserve currency into Bitcoin. I do believe that is coming around the corner, and I can't wait for that to happen. That is going to be so big. As you know, I hate to put a negative light on MicroStrategy, but you know, they're small fish, right? Small fish in a very, very large ocean. So yes, putting $1.3 billion into Bitcoin is a big thing, but all these big guys, all these tech giants, they're like, who is this company, right? You know, should we care about what he's doing? Maybe Michael Saylor is just insane and we're being reckless, right? But if Tesla does it, if Elon does it, every single tech company out there, and I'm talking about the ones with the biggest amount of cash piles, you know, Apple with like 300 billion of cash, Microsoft with like 180 billion of cash. These guys will all be thinking, okay, if Tesla's doing it, then maybe we should start thinking about it, right? So it's going to be an avalanche of companies that will follow suit afterwards. So I'm waiting for this. Michael Saylor and Elon, they had a small conversation over Twitter, but I do believe that's going to make Elon think really hard. Sometimes he acts really goofy. You know, maybe he's lit when he's on Twitter, but you know, he didn't get to where he was. He didn't get to where he is by being that way. He's a very smart guy. He thinks out of the box. So let's see what happens going forward, because if that announcement comes, it's going to be huge. It's going to be so big, so big. Anyways, all right, that's what I just want to say. And those of you guys that are tuned in late, you know, thanks for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any of my videos. I do have a stream weekdays every weekday at 11 a.m. Central Standard Time, and also I put out a lot of segment videos now, and I'm seeing good results from them, so I know a lot of you guys like them, so I'm going to continue doing more and more of them. Chris Crispy, what is your price target for Bitcoin next year? My price target is 300,000. And that is conservative now, seeing how Guggenheim thinks that it's going to be 400,000. And Citibank also thinks 300,000. Because here's the thing. You look at the 4-year cycle of now versus 4-year cycle of before, right? We're on the same path upwards. And now the rally is driven by institutions with a lot more money. And they're only just putting a small amount. They're putting a small amount, and this is what we're seeing right now. So, you know, there's just going to be so much money coming in. It's going to be unfathomable in terms of how high Bitcoin could climb and how fast it could climb. But with that said, I think the real thing is, the real question mark is, what happens afterwards? What happens at that peak? What happens when Bitcoin is at 300,000 by the end of 2021? Does it start over again, right? Does the 4-year cycle start over again? Does it go down 85% and start over? I think that's the main question we should be asking ourselves. But honestly, I think this year, you know, I mean, when I say this year, 2021, end of 2021 could just erase that. We can have no more 4-year cycles. And the reason for that is because all these big players that buying Bitcoin, they're not buying it for a year. They're buying it for decades. Some of them hold, like gold or their stocks or whatever inside a fund for decades. And now you're seeing them do so with Bitcoin. So you think they're really just going to sell everything off in a year? No, right? So as institutions add more and more Bitcoin to their portfolio, I mean, if no one's selling, is it really go dump down 85% from 300,000? So I think not. I actually think that after this 4-year cycle, we could just possibly stay up, and that's it. And we just either hover, maybe a slight dip, but I don't think we're going to see that 85% dip anymore because of all the institutions, right? Now, maybe it's a little bit different because maybe retail investor FOMO will push Bitcoin higher than any of us can imagine. Maybe at the end of 2021, Bitcoin is at 500,000 already because of retail FOMO, right? Maybe that's the case, and then maybe it falls down from there. But if we're just slowly and going up like how we've been going up, right? We just slowly keep doing this and doing this and doing this, right? Then you know what? Once we get to 300,000, we could just stay there and never come back down. So it could be the last time we could buy cheap Bitcoins, although cheap is a relative term because we're already at 23,000, right? But I'm talking about cheap meaning below $100,000. Dogecoin army. I can't say anything bad about Dogecoin. It's such a lovable coin, so I can't really say anything bad about it. But Dogecoin has been known to pump, especially when Elon gets involved. I think he just likes to poke the bear a little bit, wake up the bear, and then it just like causes everyone to panic buy. But as long as you enjoy it, as long as you're making money with Dogecoin, why not? Let's just put it that way, right? But just don't go too crazy with it. If we hit 300,000 by this time next year, this is according to Kent, we need to average adding 22,500 every 30 days to the price. We'll see. We'll see. I mean, I've been saying this, now that Bitcoin is so high, when Bitcoin moves 3%, 5%, we're talking about thousands now, right? A 10% move from here would mean that Bitcoin goes up $2,800. When we're at 23,000, it would be 2,300. Even a 5% move would be $1,200, right? So from now on, if we're seeing a consistent growth, 2, 3, 4%, like every few days or every week, that compounds, and it could go up relatively fast, right? And it'll only increase as more and more companies join in on the fund. So right now it seems like that's impossible because we would basically have to double every 3 days. But you know what? It's only the beginning. That's what I believe. It's only the beginning, and these big whales are not even dipping their toes in. They're like kind of like just like barely touching the water with their toes. Right? When they dip their toes in, they put their entire foot down, they put their entire body weight into it. That's when you're going to see some explosive movement that I don't think we've ever seen before with Bitcoin, right? But I do believe that's around the corner. Alan says, I only have Tesla stock and Bitcoin. Well, you're doing it right. That's for sure. That's why I can't wait to see this integration between Bitcoin and Tesla. You have two of the most loyal and cult-like cultures or people out there is Tesla bugs and Bitcoin bugs, right? I guess you could add Apple in there and Apple bugs. And Apple could be following suit too, because seeing what PayPal did, right? If Apple wants to compete seriously with Apple Pay, right, and wants to grow that, they have no choice but to follow suit, follow what PayPal did and Square did, and also buy some Bitcoin and start buying Bitcoin so they can offer trading services and a true blockchain wallet, right? So that could also be coming too. Actually, in fact, that's probably being developed right now, right? If Apple is serious about developing Apple Pay, they will have to go in that direction now that PayPal is fully into Bitcoin. And if Apple goes in, you know, a lot of other companies are going to follow too. And let's not forget Samsung. Samsung has Samsung Pay too. They'll probably follow, right? So, I mean, this is all building up. But besides that, I got off topic, but Tesla bug, you know, Bitcoin bugs, you know, two of the most cult-like and loyal followings out there. Imagine the two together, and then you add Apple people in there, Apple bugs. It's going to be a pretty much unstoppable force going forward, right? So, all right, guys, I'm going to let you guys go. I'm going to keep this stream a little bit shorter if I can. I know it went long already. But you know what? I think the stimulus package, this $900 billion stimulus package, will benefit Bitcoin in a big way for a couple reasons. So we'll see what happens. We'll see when people actually get their $600 paycheck. Mnuchin says it's going to be right away. Like, he's going to try to distribute it as soon as possible. So we'll see if that's the case, right? And we'll see what happens afterwards. But I do think that it's going to benefit Bitcoin in a couple ways. And if you missed out, rewatch this stream. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. And also, I forgot about NULS and Nerve. If you're interested, you know, check them out. I'm going to have their links in the description below, too. All right. Until next time, hit that smash button, subscribe, and stay tuned for my future videos. All right. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.